I would like to talk to the host of yesterday's episode of Locked on Blue Jackets, and I would like to tell him, shut up, idiot. You clearly don't know anything.
You're Locked on Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked on Blue Jackets, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked on Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. I also have to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers are going to get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/locked on to get started. The Blue Jackets won a game against Pittsburgh in this economy. And that's what most of this episode is going to be about, because I genuinely I expected nothing out of this game, and they gave me lots of things. So let's start off 4-3 overtime win. The goaltending was great, which we'll talk in a minute about why I was so wrong about not letting Elvis start in this game. They outshot the Penguins. They did not let their terrible power play do anything. The penalty kill was good. It was solid. Mathieu Olivier, short-handed goal. Love to see it. Again, I am guilty of jinxing myself by not picking Kirill Marchenko to score a goal. He did. That was a really weird. It was 9 seconds after they scored the 3-1 goal. Kirill Marchenko scored to make it 3-2 Blue Jackets, or 3-2 Pittsburgh, excuse me. Just very fun. Very stupid game, but very fun. Werenski, I believe, has tied his season high. We'll talk about Werenski in a minute here, and then they won the coin flip. They won the gimmick in the shootout. Shootouts are fun. I also don't know that shootouts should be allowed to decide games. Maybe that's an unpopular opinion. I'm not sure. But I like watching the shootout. I think it's fun. I like watching when goalies do the thing. And I like watching when really sick goals are scored. I do not think that it should be deciding the outcome of a game, but I feel like as Blue Jackets fans, beggars really can't be choosers right now. So I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to enjoy this win because, as I've been saying for the past kind of week or so, I don't know if there's another win in the schedule for the Blue Jackets. They play the Avalanche tomorrow, so we'll talk about that in tomorrow's episode and how they can avoid doing what they did in Colorado against the Avalanche the first time this season. But this was a fun game. It was kind of back and forth. It was kind of stressful. When they scored the 2-1 goal with like a minute left in the second period, I think I tweeted something like, this team is beyond parody because they'd been the better team all game long. I thought Elvis was great. Elvis had been great through the first two periods. And then Drew O'Connor with just a great goal. And then Brian Rust off that insane Sidney Crosby pass, because I feel like, and I've said this before, every single time I watch a Penguins game, which is not super often, I'm not going to lie, Sidney Crosby just does like at least one insane thing, like it's nothing. And in this game, it was that pass to Brian Rust for the 2-1 goal. And also that shootout goal against Elvis, which looked like nothing until it was already in the net. Like, just insane release. Sidney Crosby, one of the best players of all time. Probably not the best player of all time, but like he could be in the top 3 for my money. Great player. Makes the Blue Jackets look silly every single time they play them. But Blue Jackets come out on top. Zach Werenski ties the game. That's his 7th goal of the season after spending most of the season with a shooting percentage of literally, I think 0.8 was as low as it got, which is stressfully bad. let's say. He has 7 goals, which I believe is second or third best among defensemen since the start of January, which hilarious, insane. Zach Werenski is now shooting at 3.9%. Good for him. He's still shooting at about 50% of his career shooting rate. So I do feel like he should have at least as many goals again. He should have 14 goals on the season, but currently tied his career high, which he set in 2021-22. He had 48 points in 68 games. This year he did it in only 62 games. And there's still, 8 games left in the season? 9 games left in the season? I've lost count. I got too excited by the win and forgot how many games were left in the season. So barring, something terrible happening, I'm just going to knock on wood because I do like to jinx this team through no fault of my own. I am an unwilling jinxer, even though I don't necessarily think jinxes are real. He's got plenty of time to score literally one more point. He's 7 points away from 300 career points. So it would be neat if you could hit that. That again would be really a bright spot again on a very bad, no good, terrible season. So Werenski has been great this season. I've said it over and over. I still think that he plays too much, but that's been a conversation that I've been having for a long time, and I'm gonna dig into it, I think, in the off season in terms of how much should your number one defenseman be playing here. Jack Richardson only played 8.5 minutes. Zach Werenski played 27-24. Severson played 26-38. How stupid, by the way, was Severson having the shootout winning goal? I saw him go out for, I think he was the 5th shooter as they went to sudden death, and I saw him go out, and I was like, he's either going to score the best goal of all time, or this is going to be the stupidest decision that Pascal Vincent has made in a while. And I guess I'm going to eat my words on that, because David Severson scores. Evgeny Malkin gets shut down the other end by Elvis. Blue Jackets win. And the good news is, in terms of, quote unquote, the tank, the Blackhawks won last night, and the Sharks won as well. So they didn't really lose any kind of tanking ground. And I talked about a little bit yesterday about how the Blue Jackets are probably where they are in terms of standings. They're still 7 points behind the Coyotes. They're now 8 points ahead of the Anaheim Ducks. I don't see them jumping either of those two teams, either in the standings or in the draft position. So it's okay to feel good about this win, I promise. It was fun. I enjoyed it. Stressful, but I'm gonna enjoy the wins. And again, this is something I've kind of been talking about since the start of the All-Star break, is I don't know how many wins this team is going to go ahead and get as they get down the stretch here. So I'm going to go ahead and enjoy every single one of them. Someone on Twitter, one of my wonderful everydayers, let me pull up the exact tweet, because after the win last night, he tweeted, the bluesiest Blue Jacket thing to do right now would be to win all of the rest of their games. I agree, that would be incredibly on brand. That is John O'Connor at Yosemite Forest on Twitter. That would be aggressively Blue Jackets. They do love to go on that end of season hot streak. They haven't done it in a while. They're overdue. But I look at the opponents that they have, and I don't see that happening. Avalanche, Carolina twice, Tampa Bay, Florida. The Islanders are fighting for a playoff spot. The Flyers are fighting for a playoff spot. There's one more team that they have to play that I'm forgetting that's also in a playoff spot. It's a truly stupid end to the season for this team. So I don't see them winning. Are they going to win a couple more? Maybe. I wouldn't be surprised if they win tomorrow against the Avalanche, because this hockey is stupid. It makes no sense sometimes. But I'm okay with this win, and I don't think it's going to spark this insane winning streak that pushes them up to 8th or whatever in the draft lottery. Let's talk a little bit more about the game specifically, as opposed to how I feel about the game, because I want to talk about goaltending and how I was wrong. So that's coming up in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I'm going to tell you about eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience is what brings home the winning trophy. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. They've got everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. They've got 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You're always going to find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every single time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. They've got all the parts you need at the prices you want. It's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to US customers. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. We're talking about a win in this economy. A real solid win. I thought it wasn't even like the offense outworked the goaltending that they've had issues with, or the goaltending had to outplay the forwards forgetting how to score. Like, they scored 3 whole goals. Alex Nedeljkovic was very good last night, but Elvis was better, and Elvis typically does not. I went through a period of time where every time I would criticize a player on Twitter or whatever and say, hey, it would be really nice if X player scored a goal right now, they would immediately score. Like, I think I did it 3 times in one game at the height of my powers. Elvis typically in the past has not responded to me saying, you need to be better. Not that I'm expecting him to, like, actively respond, but just, like, in the way that the universe is weird sometimes, and every time I criticize a player, he scores. Criticizing Elvis does not necessarily make him a better player, but I do like that after I spent, a solid third of yesterday's episode being like, start Daniil Tarasov and here's why. They start Elvis, and then he's great. Allowed 3 goals on 38 shots, was a scooch higher than what he should have. I believe he had an expected goals against of like 2.78 and allowed 3 goals. That kind of margin for error, I will take. I think at this point in the season, with a goalie like Elvis, you take the wins where you can get them. 909 save percentage. It was a good game for Elvis after 3 really very bad games against Winnipeg, Colorado, and Arizona, where he allowed 6 goals in all 3. 3 goals on 36 shots is great. His save percentage is still below 900 on the season, again, because of those very bad games, but this was a promising Elvis game. This is the first time he's beaten the Penguins in his career. I think this is the 8th attempt, 7th or 8th attempt. We talked about this in yesterday's episode. He has not beaten the Penguins since joining the league. Was 0-6, and had not played particularly well in any of the games against the Penguins. So great to see him play well, and great to see him get the win against a team that he has not yet beaten. So shout out to Elvis. Not the number 1 star of the game for me, but definitely up there. I do want to talk a little bit about the Cleveland line. And Boone Jenner, late decision, can't go, is sick, I think. I did wonder if it was baby time. His wife is expecting pretty soon, I think. But no, he is ill, so they have to do an emergency call-up from Cleveland. They can't pull anyone out of the lineup in Cleveland, so they pull one of their healthy scratches. The only healthy scratch that is also on a Blue Jackets contract, I believe, is Cameron Butler. So they call Cameron Butler up. They get the call at, I think, 4:30. And he gets in his car, hauls his butt all the way down to Columbus, which I think Aaron Portzline remarked that if you're a law-abiding citizen, that's a 2-hour, 15-minute drive. He showed up, basically ran from his car to the locker room 15 minutes before the game was set to start, threw his gear on, got onto the bench, missed warm-ups, but did make the game. I was not expecting him to get a ton of ice time in this game. I was expecting to get more than literally 57 seconds. 54 seconds, even. That's even lower than I thought. He didn't play at all in the first period. I think he had one shift in the second period and then one shift in the third period. I get it. He's probably not an NHL caliber player. I get it. You just need to have a warm body so you have enough players, and you don't want to go shorthanded. That being said, Columbus basically rolled 3 forward lines all night because that fourth line of Butler, James Malatesta, and Carson Meyer, James Malatesta had the highest ice time on that line of 5 minutes, 29 seconds. Carson Meyer played 4:37, and again, we've talked about Cameron Butler playing 54 seconds. On the flip side, Johnny Gaudreau played 24 and a half minutes. Cole Sillinger played 23:47. He didn't start the game in that number one center spot between Gaudreau and Nylander, but he finished the game there. Again, I thought Cole Sillinger, another solid game. Another very strong game from him, which is great to see. What are we doing? I don't know that it's a recipe for success to roll 3 lines of hockey in the NHL. I get that you think that they're not NHL caliber or whatever, and they're just there to, fill in. But it's so frustrating to watch, and especially if the team is struggling, which they did at parts of this game. And you've got some players. Alex Texier is another one. Alexander Texier played 23 minutes and 14 seconds. I just don't get it. Put the fourth line out against their fourth line and just have them cause problems. I have liked Carson Meyer in his limited NHL time this season. I have liked Malatesta in even more limited time this season. Butler, I genuinely, I think I might even have missed most of his shift. I saw him. Actually, no, I saw most of the shift in the second period. But what are we doing here? I get it. You don't want to play the guys that you think are going to cost you the game, but at this point, just a really weird coaching decision in a long line of weird coaching decisions this season. This is not a case of let the kids play. I don't think, if they'd called up, another young player, if they'd, put, Luke Del Bubbalus, for instance, if they'd called him up and he'd played 54 seconds, or if they'd called up someone like Hunter McCown or Josh Dunn. I think Hunter McCown is injured at the minute, so he's maybe not the best example of this, but if they'd called someone like that up and pulled them out of the Cleveland lineup to play them for less than a minute of game time, I would be mad as heck about it, and I imagine they are as well. Again, logically, I get it. I don't agree with it. Just a truly wild decision. I'll be interested to see what happens against Colorado if Boone Jenner is well enough to go. I imagine Butler gets back in his car and drives all the way back up. Is it I-71 or I-72 that goes up to Cleveland? Apologies for not knowing the Ohio geography. I both do not live there and do not drive a car. So if I have picked the wrong highway, I am formally apologizing. Sean Corrali also skated in practice yesterday, I believe. So that's a good sign for him and his health. Justin Danforth apparently is almost back. So the Blue Jackets, could have almost a real NHL lineup in the next couple of games, maybe. I still don't think we see Fantilli until next season. Obviously, Johnson's out, although it was good to see him proof of life on the Blue Jackets Twitter. His usual smiling, wonderful self, looking extremely deadpan, like a little haunted doll, into the camera in his Jeff Rimmer t-shirt. But the Blue Jackets could have something approaching an actual NHL lineup, not a 50% NHL lineup, 50% AHL lineup, which is good news for them in terms of finishing strong and also just being able to send bodies back to Cleveland because they are continuing to struggle. They lost in overtime to a team that I believe the team is now only 1 point behind them in the standings for second place in the North. So like they could use some bolstering down in Cleveland. But overall, happy with this game for the most part. Like I said, some things I would change, some things I disagree with, some guys that I thought could have been better, but a win's a win. I'm glad that they are not going to go on a 15-game losing streak to end the season. Like, it's not out of the realm of possibility that they just finished their, 7-game losing streak and they immediately go on another 8-game losing streak to finish the season. But I hope you guys enjoyed this win. I enjoyed this win. I'm not going to complain about the tank this time. If they win against Colorado, maybe we'll have a conversation. But we're going to finish off today's episode by just checking in with the CHL playoffs. A couple more games happened last night. And we'll do a quick run through of the league, and it won't take 12 minutes like it did in yesterday's episode. So that's what's coming up to finish off today's episode of Locked On Blue Jackets. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. We are looking at the CHL playoffs. Only a couple of teams played last night, but some news out of the QM. Let's start with the news out of the QMJHL. Jordan DeMay was eligible to return from his suspension and apparently has re-aggravated a lower body injury, which I don't know if that's connected to the abdominal surgery that he had earlier this season. I don't know if the abdominal, I don't know if the abdomen is technically upper body or lower body. It's kind of just right in the middle there. But he's aggravated that. Or it could have been, I think it was a knee injury that kept him out at the beginning of the season, actually, when he was he didn't get sent down from training camp and preseason until November, I feel like. And I'm sure that was a knee injury. So it could be that. But Halifax struggling. They're missing Jake Furlong, their captain. They are missing Jordan DeMay now for maybe this playoff run, if I'm being honest. Finally gets back from his suspension and then immediately gets injured. Extremely on brand for the Blue Jackets. So I don't know when we'll see him take the ice for the Mooseheads this season again. It might not. And then he's probably going to be with the Monsters next season. So he might have already played his last game as a Moosehead. In terms of the OHL, Nolan Lalonde and the Saginaw Spirit continue to win. And he continues to sit on the bench, which I'm sure he's not thrilled with. But they are up 2-0 on, I believe it's the Owen Sound Attack they're playing. He might get in a game at some point, but as of right now, their other goalie, Oki, I believe his name is, has the net right now. So it's not as fun to watch the CHL playoffs this season as it was last season when they had, you had James Malatesta tearing things up in Quebec. You had DeMay being insane in Halifax. Luke Delbar-Baluz was phenomenal for the Sting and the Steelheads last season. So as of right now, it's looking a little bit wonky for Blue Jackets prospects. Max McHugh and the Knights didn't play last night. Luca Pinelli and the 67s didn't play last night. Both of those teams play tonight. So we'll check in on them in tomorrow's episode. And then the Moose Jaw Warriors increased their series lead to 2-0 after a 5-4 overtime win. Nothing for Martin Ryshavi in this game, but Denton Matejchuk adds a second assist, so now he's up to 2 assists in 2 playoff games this season. It would be really great if they could try and get him going a little bit more. But Moose Jaw getting it done, up 2-0. And I think that's it. Actually, let's check in real quick with Oiva Keskinen and the Liga, because I believe they had a chance to win their first round series against TPS, and they did do that. So good for them. They won 4-1 for that game. Nope, that's a lie. They won 5-4. So Keskinen, again, no points, only 12:09 of ice time. Something that the Liga gives you in terms of stats, this is not relevant because I don't know how I would put this into anything, but part of their standard like box score stats is how far a player skated. And I don't know if this is in meters or not, but that's just a fun stat. 3,199, I assume meters, for Over Keskinen skating in that game. So like, I don't know. Doesn't really mean anything, but I did enjoy seeing that. So Tappara is moving on. They're going to be facing Kalpar in the second round of the Liga playoffs, and then from there it'll be the semifinals. Or no, excuse me. This is the semifinal. If they win this game, they'll be going to the final. It hasn't been decided who's going to be playing the other series. It'll be probably Karpat and one of the Pelicans or HIFK. That series is tied 3-3, so that's going to game 7. So Keskinen continues to, again, reap the rewards of being on the best team in the Liga. So hopefully we'll get to see a championship from him, or even just some championship ice time. I think that'll be fun. Tomorrow, that's all I've got for today. Tomorrow, we'll talk a little bit more about the Avalanche. We'll hopefully get some kind of injury updates from the Blue Jackets in terms of who could be healthy, who could be back. Like I said, it sounds like Corrali is close. It sounds like Danforth is close. Jenna should be on the mend from whatever illness kept him out of the lineup last night. So we'll talk about all of that on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Blue Jackets. Thank you for listening to this episode of Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I have been Jay Foster. You can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFORSTER. You can find the show at LO_Blue Jackets on Twitter and on Instagram now. You can find us on every podcast app of choice. You can find us on YouTube. We're free and available to watch, listen. We're also on the SXM app. Just type in Locked On Blue Jackets and you'll find us there. I don't know why I say us when it's just me now, but you'll find Locked On Blue Jackets there. And thank you for making us your first listen of the day every single day. Until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.